Hello, dear listeners. Your reliable DM here. I know this isn't the way we normally start off our episodes. However, I do have a few announcements that I need to make. First off, the Champions of Solane will be taking a short hiatus. There have been some technical and scheduling conflicts, but fear not. Soon you will have the answer to your question of, what will happen next? And what is Altiel doing there? Secondly, we are working on a new podcast called The Dungeon Master's Corner, which you will be getting a preview of today. DMC is in no way replacing Champions of Solane. However, we didn't want to leave you with nothing while we were away. The goal of this podcast is to tell some stories, reflect on events that have occurred in games you haven't heard of yet, and give you all a peek behind the screen. Finally, don't think that we're only playing catch-up. We've got lots of plans in the works, though I can't give too much away right now. We will be taking the time to make sure that we are providing you with the best possible content that we can. Thank you for your patience as we deal with the chaotic mess of production, and trusting that we will continue to be reliable. That's the end of our announcements. Now, take a listen to the first episode of the Dungeon Master's Corner. Welcome to a new episode of the Dungeon Master's Corner. My name is Brian Scharf, and today I will be taking you through a story that I like to call Womford Burns. So, this story takes place while I was running a few people that you know and a few people you don't know through Princes of the Apocalypse. So, spoiler warning right here. During the Princes of the Apocalypse campaign, you go to a place where you fight a werebore named Grimjaw. Now, there's a story about that fight all on its own, but that's going to be covered under a different episode. Today, we're focusing on the aftermath of that fight. One of my players got infected, unwittingly, with the werebore disease. Let's quickly run through our players. We had Thok, our half-orc fighter. Menowin, desert elf evocation wizard. Henry, our human rogue, who happened to be 15 years old. And believe you me, we'll be coming back to Henry a lot. Theamin, the human wizard paladin and D&PC played by yours truly. There were multiple times when they needed a healer, and I didn't want to give them something broken. Allow me to tell you right now, I gave them something broken. Finally, there was Vega, the human druid who may or may not have been a cannibal, even before he was infected with the werebore disease. They were traveling back to Womford by boat. They were on the river. Womford was in sight. And the full moon rose, transforming Vega, for the first time, into a werebore. So of course, he went crazy and started attacking everybody. This led to a massive battle on the boat. Crewmen were running, trying to avoid being slaughtered, and trying to avoid crashing the ship. Thok, even without a magic sword, went in and decided to fight mano a mano against Vega in his new werebore form. Theamin, for his part, was doing his best at spell slinging because he did not have a magic weapon either and felt he'd be more effective at range. Henry ran up. Oh, Henry ran up. Henry ran up and decided to angle Burning Hands because he was a arcane trickster, and that was one of the spells that he had taken. He angled Burning Hands so it wouldn't hit Thok. It hit Thok. But he was trying not to hit Thok. So he dove down between Vega's legs and shot the fire up. 15 feet. Through the werebore, through the half-orc and directly into the sails. The werebore did take some damage, at the very least. However, the crew now had a more difficult task to deal with. Seeing all of this unfold, the wizard, who had already taken a few licks, decided, we need to get him away from the ship before he kills us all. Fighting him in the water would be even worse if we managed to take down the boat. This was good thinking. She decided to try something daring. I love this. She asked me a question that will forever live on in infamy in our campaigns. Could she take an unwilling creature with her using a Dimension Door spell? Now, I know the spell reads that you cannot do this. It has to be a willing creature. But I liked where this was going. I liked the story element, and I will always be the one to say that story trumps rules. So I said, you can. However, the creature you were trying to take with you has a chance to succeed on a wisdom saving throw against the spell. Otherwise, you just, poof, go by yourself. Which would leave her completely away from the battle and unable to help. I figured it was a good balancing of the spell, and she agreed. Vega attempted to make his wisdom saving throw, and he failed. Now this is where my brain started ticking off possibilities, because my first thought was, I bet you anything, she's going to teleport him 500 feet over the water, and then either polymorph into something or teleport herself back, and they're just going to watch this werebore splat into the water. I would have lost that bet. Because never in a million years would I have expected her to do what she did. She asked me how far it was to the beach. I said about 400 feet. So she teleported herself, the wizard with a 10 constitution and an AC of 15. And I think she had like 10 hit points left, to the beach with the werebore 400 feet away from her allies, who now had to traverse water to get to her. She told me it was fine. She would be fine. Because in spite of how few hit points she had, she still had her shield spell. There was no way he was going to hit her because she had her shield spell and he crit immediately. Critical hit immediately. So down goes the wizard, and now the werebore is no longer confined to a boat. No. It is right next to Womford, the port of this town that's completely defenseless. And the only help is 400 feet away on a burning boat. Yeah, this one was going good. So, the party, most of whom saw what happened. I mean, it was fairly obvious watching the wizard get gutted by the werebore, dove off the ship to her rescue. I'd like to specify to her rescue. We had to save the party member first. I'm pretty sure by the time they got to her and brought her up with a potion, I'm fairly certain that Vega killed about 9 innocent people. They're commoners. They had 4 hit points. They were not lasting long against him. At this point, they were trying to come up with plans. How are we going to deal with this? How are we going to manage this? And I rolled for Theoman's mood, because a little something I've left out of the story thus far. Nicole. You might know her as the Amazing Pied Piper. Well, she is also Menowin in this story. Nicole has a nasty habit of seducing all of my NPCs so that none of them are able to ever leave the party. This is the third time it has happened. So Theomin, being in a romantic relationship with Menowin, that never got confusing. Thank God we started calling her Meni after a while. He rolled very low on his wisdom check to not go into a blind rage against Vega. He marched into the town and unleashed a fireball. Just dropped a fireball in the middle of the town, right on Vega. And Vega, as I should have expected at this point in the evening, rolled a natural 1 on his save. Now, if you do listen to the Champions of Solane podcast, you'll know that I run my games with a particular house rule. That house rule is, if you roll a natural 1 on a saving throw, we treat it as though it's a critical hit. So the critical hit is double the dice, which means the fireball that hit Vega was essentially a 16d8 fireball. My math could be a little off here. I'm doing this from memory. But I think that's more powerful than an ancient red dragon's breath. And it was in the middle of Womford. That radius of town ceased to be. And because of the trait of a werebore, Vega dropped to 1 hit point, to which he was promptly knocked out. But at that point, 90% of Womford had burned to the ground. And that was the first time Womford burned. Yeah, this happened multiple times. Multiple times we have burned Womford to the ground. It's actually become a joke now. Anytime a one-shot or anytime a campaign goes through Womford, we say, as soon as we hear the name, Womford must burn. But that is where I'm going to leave the story for today. But it just goes to show you, you can never be sure what your players are going to do. And sometimes giving them a little creative license with the wording of a spell can allow for some truly unforgettable moments. Okay. I realize I said 16d8 when it should have been 16d6. But some things you don't catch right away. That's the point of post-production. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this taste of something new from the Reliably Chaotic crew, and that you'll tune in next time when we bring in some more of the cast to share their side of stories. We even have a few guests that will come in from time to time. Thank you for joining us for the inaugural episode of the Dungeon Master's Corner. We hope you enjoyed, and we can't wait to see you in our next adventure.